Shane Ragland was charged with murdering Trent DeGero, a UK football player, and we've been covering this over the past couple of weeks. And I think we left off that we took this case to the grand jury, and we talked a little bit about the unique problems with this case and the grand jury, considering that we had credible information that the witness that was testifying against Shane Ragland was in danger. And that witness, of course, was his ex-girlfriend. And we had several things that made us particularly concerned that there could be some issues, and we had to deal with those. And
when you say issues, that harm could come to her.
Well, you know, quite frankly, we had information from KSP Intelligence that said that they had loose information that someone was maybe trying to get a hit on her. Didn't know who, but that, you know, that was there. We also had some more tangible stuff, like unknown people running her credit report to try to find her in various places. And then we had someone calling her old friends trying to locate her as well. Some mysterious voice trying to just calling and saying, have you seen Amy?
Well, that's what happened is that freaked her out.
Yeah.
And before we get to the freak out part,
Sure.
the case went to the grand jury. That 12 people from our community who listened to facts and evidence and tried to determine whether or not there's sufficient evidence to believe that this crime occurred and that this person, Shane Ragland, probably did it. And they returned an indictment against Ragland for murder. And but I'll never forget watching the police pull up in back of the old courthouse on Short Street, and she pulled her coat over her head like so many people you see on TV doing. And the police rushed her in to the courthouse, away from all of the media. The media was all over this thing. So at any rate, the indictment was returned, and then a lot of the things you talked about, these people trying to find her, all that sort of thing, and it freaked her out. Now, you were the contact with Amy, and much as I hate to say it, your ability to keep this thing from falling apart made the case. I'll say that to you, but I don't want any of these listeners to think I mean it.
You'll make it up.
Yeah, right. So she was freaking out, and you were being told that she was freaking out, and because you were in communication with her all the time. So what did we decide we needed to do?
Well, it wasn't just her freaking out. We had information that there could be an issue, that her life could be in danger. And that's unusual. We'll tell you that. In most of these cases, it doesn't happen like this. So ultimately, we made the decision to go ahead and move her to an undisclosed location and then monitor any efforts to try to locate her. And then if it looked like anyone was getting close, we'd move her again. So we went through this process for, it seems like, several months or maybe up to a year. And you think about this for a second. You know, Amy had a job. She had a life. You know, she had a job that she went to every day. She had family. She had all these things going on. And you're told by the police that for your safety, we need to move you to an undisclosed location, and you can't have contact with any of your family except through us during this time period, because that's the only way we can guarantee your safety. You take any normal person who's living your life, and suddenly you're thrust into that. How stressful is that? How crazy is that for someone to have to go through? And at first, people may go, well, that sounds sort of cool. You know, you would get that. Well, yeah, it's cool for about a week. And then suddenly, like, wait, this is not cool. I'm in prison. And on top of that, if I try to leave my prison, I could be killed. I mean, that's in the mind of this victim here. This witness has now become a victim. And you know, we need the witness. We also owe it to the witness to support the witness. And you don't want another victim. It's a interesting situation to deal with.
All right, and then so we moved her, and we moved her basically across the country, and that happens with the cooperation of the Kentucky Attorney General's office. They have a fund that allows witness protection kind of stuff. So then it comes time to start getting ready for trial, and the preparation for trial takes a long time. because there are a lot of motions that defense attorneys make and that sort of thing, and there were a bunch. But
And meanwhile, Shane Ragland's out on bail, by the way. He posted $1 million full cash bail, and he's out. So you
his
have
dad brought in two $500,000 checks. Whew. So at any rate, now this investigative file that you put together as the case detective was voluminous. I mean, huge. And you have to be prepared to testify about whatever is contained in your investigative file. So we spent hours and hours and hours and hours and days and weeks and months going over that thing over and over it again so that you could be prepared and have it in your memory. Now, you happen to be relatively bright, so you do well in that sort of thing. Amy was going to be my witness.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to be responsible for questioning her. Well, I talked to her, and brother, she just did not like me. She just,
Oh, she lies. She just gets your sense of humor, I think.
Well, no, she didn't like me. So I said to Lou Anna Redcorn, who was helping prosecute the case, I said, Lou, Amy is your witness. She and I just not getting along.
Yeah, it just boiled down to Amy's very type A, which is a good thing. You're very type A.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get two people in a room like that, and it just sort of
Bang heads. So
but I do
anyway,
know she respects you. I'll tell you that. She'd probably be mad if I told you that. But I remember years ago she didn't say all that. So anyway.
So what happened was Lou Anna prepared her for hours, and the same thing over and over. This is what you're going to be asked. These are the questions I'm going to ask you, and I'm not suggesting any answers. I just want you to be prepared for the, And so she spent hours and hours. First of all, getting Amy to trust her, and she did. And Amy was a great witness. I mean, she's very bright.
One of the things that made it so difficult for Amy Lloyd was Amy kept a diary, as you recall. And in that diary, she logged everything about her life, very personal, intimate things as a girl would do in a diary. By the way, girls, don't keep a diary. I'll tell you that. But anyway, Amy did. Well, unfortunately, or fortunately, in that diary, she made an entry the day that Shane Ragland told her that he had killed Trent DeGero. She put an entry in her diary that Shane told me the worst thing he ever did today, with the date. Well, that became evidence. But not just that entry became evidence. The entire diary became evidence, which meant at some point we all knew that the defense attorneys would have that diary. It would be subject to discovery, and they could
Discovery means we turn over.
So basically, we had to hand her diary over to the defense team, and they were able to go through every day of her life that was documented in that diary, what she ate, who she dated, how the date went, whatever the stuff you put in a diary was right there. Okay, and I'll tell you, there wasn't anything particularly salacious in that diary. It was the only issue was there was a lot of personal stuff in there. If we all documented anything we've ever done, we wouldn't like everybody reading it either. So that had to be dealt with. And at trial, of course, they're going to beat her over the head with it. I see on this date you did this, and did you kiss that fella you dated? I mean, it was just crazy, the stuff that came out of that, and that really had nothing to do with the trial.
But Lou Anna prepared her for all of that.
Yeah.
And when Amy was asked questions of an extremely personal nature, she just answered them.
Oh yeah,
just straight. Yep, nope, yep. And I thought it befuddled the defense attorneys.
Oh, it did. It did. There was one thing in particular we don't get on the radio, but she made a fool of the defense attorney, and really stopped that whole process when she was asked a question that was ridiculous, and it made it look like an old perverted guy asking a question that was none of his business, and she threw it right back at him. And I think that had an impact for people. They're like, you know what, this is ridiculous. Let's move on with this. Okay.
Well, so what happens is that Shane Ragland we put our case on, and you had to talk about all of these people that you ran down, all of these guns that were the same brand and caliber, and that they were tested, the whole thing. And we had lots of witnesses all about the fraternity when he was blackballed and thrown out or whatever it was. And so, and he was convicted. And then the jury came back and they fixed his punishment at 35 years.
Found him guilty.
Yeah.
Sentenced to 35 years in prison.
Yeah. Now, so, and I don't really care much more about Shane Ragland. But, so, Amy has done all of this. And so, there you go. And the people that were angry about her before the trial probably are more angry about her. And so the issue is we just can't let her go. And so what kind of arrangements do we make to look after her, to help her get on with the rest of her life?
Well, you can't get into the details of it, but there are different programs. There's a witness protection program that the feds have, and then there are programs that you put together locally. But bottom line is you try to put someone in a position where they can't be found very easily. And if that means a name change and basically an identity change, then that's what you do. And there's a lot to that, because I tell you, we live in a country, and it's probably a good thing, where it's actually designed, by design in this country, the government can't just make you disappear. You know, this isn't the Soviet Union. I mean, everything's public record in this country. So when you try to make an identity change, it's very difficult to do that. And we're glad in that way. But on these extreme cases where certain things need to be done, you have to do what you have to do. But you know, that's it. You know, Amy wanted to go live her life and put all this behind her, and that's what she did.
So if somebody hog-tied me, that get me to tell them where she is and who she is, I couldn't do it. I have no idea where she is. I have no idea what her name is now. I have no idea what's going on in her life, and that's the way she wanted it. And it's but this is one of the most interesting cases I've ever been involved in.
Well, you know, and there's so many things that complicated it. You look at, first of all, anytime you have a case that goes this long without being resolved, and you have that many years that pass, it's very hard to get a conviction. You know, because things change, witnesses change, evidence is gone, so you just take that in itself. And people tell me, well, do you think that rich people get out of things more than poor people? Well, my response to that is real simple. People with more money, they have the ability, oftentimes, to keep muddying the water and to use every single appeal to keep things, to drag things out. And sometimes it appears they get off. It's not that they buy their way out of it. It's just they're able to work the system a little better to its fullest. You know, so that's what you deal with here. And there's some of that going on too. You got the resources, you got the lawyers. You're going to keep on keeping on, and unfortunately, a lot of times in that cases, we see that in high-profile cases out of Hollywood and whatever. That's what happens. You know, you just have to deal with it. As a prosecutor, sometime we'll talk about that. The difference in prosecuting somebody who has the ability to continue to muddy the water and throw resources at it versus your average person who obviously has protection, but you know, let's face it, you know, you're limited in your resources. So, and I think that played a lot of factor in this case too, don't you?
Yeah. Well, what I wanted to do about discussing the Ragland case is to let people that listen to this show realize that you actually were an extremely competent detective, and before you fell off the wagon and became a showbiz DJ.
The detective formerly known as Don. That's what Billy Richmond used to say.
Yeah.